I can talk to dead people.
I talk to dead people.
You just have such a loving vibe to you. I love it.
It's a fun party trick.
Right. But what do you say to people who don't believe in what you're doing?
Cleaning his blood off the walls.
Oh my God.
The most important factor to a healthy well-being is feeling connected.
Welcome to From There to Here, a safe place where we will explore some of life's adventures so that you do not feel alone.
Hello, welcome to From There to Here. It's Monday. We're going to get your week started in a positive way. Jess, Heartlands time.
My heart lens right now, today, is time spent with Jude's biological brother. We went to a brewer game this week, and it was just so fun. It was 1,000,000 degrees outside, and we basically melted in the sun, but it was so worth it and so fun. And he said he had a great time, and it was Jude's first brewer game and his brother's first brewer game too.
Yeah.
So just super exciting to be able to share in that together.
Yeah.
And it was also the first time that I went to a brewer game and didn't drink alcohol.
So many firsts.
I know. And it was still fun.
You can have fun without drinks.
Apparently.
Look
yes,
at that.
Even at a sporting event. Who knew?
Only because your kids are with you. Though.
Exactly. Otherwise, I would be definitely having some drinks.
Because it's not fun then.
No, right. The kids made it fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun.
How about you?
Awesome. I'm going to go with, I just love that I didn't do anything this morning with myself.
Nice. So no shower.
No shower, no makeup. I literally, you guys are going to, this might gross us out.
Okay.
I wore these clothes yesterday morning and I was like, they're not dirty. I wore them for I literally wore them for maybe a half hour.
I do that all the time.
These aren't dirty. I'm putting them on again. So didn't shower, I do have clean underwear on.
That's all.
I don't even wear underwear half the time, like in my
I know.
yoga clothes.
Well, I know in your yoga clothes you don't. But actually, I'm going to call her out. I won't say a name. But I'll call out somebody who doesn't ever wear underwear. And that just is so weird to me. Even in jeans.
My ex-mother-in-law said, why do I know this? That's weird, right? But she didn't wear underwear either, even in jeans. And I'm like,
this is just going off on a tangent, but
real weird.
I'm gonna gross a lot of people out here, but don't you leak? I mean,
hopefully they're washing their jeans.
Every time. I don't wash my jeans every time I wear them, though.
Yeah. I wash my yoga pants.
Every time.
Mostly.
All right. Off of that tangent, Emmitt, we have a guest with us today. Emmitt's here.
Hello.
Hi, Emmitt.
Hello.
What is in
She's
your
so glad
heartlands?
she's here for that conversation.
I am. I had thoughts, but I kept them in my mind.
You don't have to. Open room here. What's in your heart lens, my friend?
I just got back from a trip from Oregon with the family and just being able to spend that time with my husband and my daughter. And I never take off from work. So it was good to just be with them. And
did your daughter just love it?
She did not. She right away said, I just want to go home. Yeah. So every night before bed, she's like, I want to go home.
Oh, no.
We're really far away from home.
Yes. Yeah.
But then she didn't want to leave on the last day, of course.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. As long as we were out exploring and doing stuff, she was fine. But as soon as we got back to the house, she's like, I'm done.
This is not my bed. This is not where I want to sleep.
Lose my shit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put stickers on the wall in the place we don't live.
Well, in this podcast, we call those kind of going aways trips, not vacations.
Oh, yeah.
Because you took your daughter.
No. Yeah.
Your kids are with you. It's definitely
not much
a
relaxing for mom and dad.
Yeah.
No.
It's just taking care of your kids in a different place.
There it is. That's very true.
Yeah. But nice that you got to take time off of work to do that.
Yeah, I've heard Oregon is just beautiful.
It is.
It's on my list.
It is. We went to the coast, so we drove out from Portland and stayed on the coast for a day. And
nice.
So it was great.
Magical.
Yeah, you're driving up to 1,600 feet elevation.
Oh my goodness.
I was about to throw up looking at the trees. you're like above all these like 100-foot pine trees, and I'm like, if we roll, we're done.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gosh.
But besides that, it was beautiful. Yeah, it was great. I would definitely suggest it to anybody. Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
If you want to share your Heartlands with us, you know what to do. If you've listened to our podcast, right? Go to Facebook, Instagram. I don't know. Send us a message on TikTok or YouTube, I guess. Record yourself, right? Or go to podcast from there to hear at Gmail to email us your Heartlands, or go to our website, podcast from there to here.net.
And be sure you have subscribed and followed and pushed all those buttons on all those social media places you can find us.
Yeah, thank you.
Like we said, we have a guest with us here today, and her name is Emmitt. And I met Emmitt because she was my birthday gift from Shannon actually this year. And since I met Emmitt, I have sent tons of family and friends to see her because
thank you so much for that.
Oh my gosh.
She is an incredible human. And I'm not going to say much more than that because Emmitt is actually here to share about her gifts and her story about how she came to be. What do you call yourself?
I guess I just call myself a medium and oracle card reader and
So describe that. Like, what is a medium first?
So I can talk to dead people.
I talk to dead people. Isn't that a quote from a movie?
Probably.
Yeah, The Sixth Sense.
Okay,
I can see dead people. I just talk.
There we go. Do you see dead people too?
I do see dead people. Not all the time, but that's when I see them. That's when I know they really are pushing for me to connect with them and find them. And other times it's like I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. It's so just strange, but they don't know they're there, right? Like they don't know they're dead, and they're just like walking around a place just like they would when they were living, and I just happen to come into their frequency, and I can see them, and it it doesn't weird me out all the time, but sometimes it's a little strange.
I've totally been scared by seeing dead people, and then they go away right away, and then I want to be able to do it, but
I know. Well, I think once they pick up on like, oh, they saw me, or like, oh, I freaked him out, then they kind of will back off, unless they're trying to scare you. And there are some that they will make their presence even more known and try to trick you and try to make you paranoid. Yeah.
Okay, I have like so many questions already, but okay. So then the other piece.
Were you scared the first time? Sorry, Shannon.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I'm like,
the first time I saw dead people, I was really little. So I was not scared. I would just say things to the adults around me and they would be scared. So I
thinking like you're hallucinating, or
no, my mom was like, okay, like that's enough. Like she was like freaked out, and
but she believed you.
She did. Yeah. Okay. So I had a blue alien that lived in my closet, and I used to make him dinner. And I used to stay in my room and talk to him. Yeah. And then we'd go to my grandma's, who lived out in the country in Baraboo, and we'd be at her house, and I'd be like, oh, there's a guy riding his bike and he doesn't have a head. And she'd be like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel like
let's go play outside.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Do you feel like the adults around you supported those comments, or did they kind of shut them down, or
definitely more shutted them down? I think my dad was kind of neutral about it, but he's very... he's a Scorpio, and that's one of the most intuitive and psychic signs, but he sees and knows things. So like when he was 15, I think his grandma was passing away, and he was sitting at her kitchen table, and he saw her open the back door and walk out, and he looked at her and said, don't do this. And then I think it goes that he walked into the kitchen, or walked out of the kitchen and into the living room, and they told him that she had passed away. So
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, and then he like said he was hunting, and he was like, that would be weird if that squirrel over there just like attacked me, and then the squirrel just jumped at his head and attacked him.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. I
so
didn't know squirrels did that.
Yeah, they really, I think it's pretty rare for them to.
Wow.
So he was like, how weird is it
Yeah.
that happened after I thought that, but he was struck by lightning when he was 4 years old too. So like, that's got to do something to your brain, right?
Right. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other part of the definition you gave yourself was oracle reader?
Oracle card reader.
Card reader. So what is that then?
So like when you guys came, I pulled cards for you. So when I'm at home and I do my readings online, I don't always do medium readings online. Sometimes I will. I'll just ask for a picture and the name of the person. I'll just type up everything that they're saying to me and I'll send that as a reading. Otherwise, the other reading I do is I pull cards and then I channel from spirit the messages of the cards. But in-person readings, I channel your loved ones and then I go through the cards with you and I just read from the book. Just because that's easier. And then after I read from the book, it's funny how we can go back and make connections from our reading to the meanings of the cards.
I felt like during my time with you too, stop me if I'm wrong, of course, but like you pulled the cards, but you didn't even get to all of them because the messages started just coming
and it depends on the reading. It depends on who you have on your spirit team, how much they like to talk. How much I like to talk with them.
Okay.
What is a spirit team?
So I believe everybody has a couple people on the other side. I shouldn't even call them people, but spirit guides or beings that have been with you since birth or have found you throughout your life and have seen you and been like, I want to work with that person. I want to work with their energy.
Is it a soul?
It's a soul, absolutely. Yeah. And it could be like maybe it was your mother in a past life.
Oh, so it's not always somebody we know in this form.
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
I do believe in aliens. So some people have alien beings that have been with them.
Yours. Do you still see your alien?
I don't see them, but as I got older, like I always felt crazy. And I couldn't put a name on it, right? I'm crazy for a lot of reasons, but I couldn't put a name on it until I was 19 and I had a medium come to me. Well, I had hired her thinking she was just a grief counselor. And she had came to my house and we were talking and all of a sudden she starts reading for me. And I was like, what is this? I thought you were a grief counselor. And she's like, no, I'm a medium and you're a medium and you hear these things and you see these things and you know these things. And I'm like, oh my God, like somebody knows.
Oh, somebody knows. Not alone.
Yeah.
You were 19 the first time. Like you've been making comments your whole childhood, but you were 19 when you started to identify yourself as a medium?
Yes. Yep. Okay. Yep, 19 when I started that. Or maybe I was 20. I could have been 20.
Okay.
But yeah, so I had a boyfriend pass away when I was 19.
Okay.
And after he had passed, I went down a really dark way. And but I had been hearing him and seeing him and feeling him in a way that just did not even feel real or make sense.
Yeah.
But it was like when I was 12 and my grandpa had shot himself, I was able to feel him and see him and hear him, but I did not tell anybody about it, but I wrote him letters.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was not close with my grandpa at all. He was a real crazy dude.
Sure.
Okay. He was just wild. OCD and just angry, and
so he had some mental health issues.
Absolutely.
Do you think that they were mental health issues, or do you think maybe he had some of these gifts?
I think
and he didn't know what to do with it.
I think that they can go hand in hand, but definitely a lot of trauma.
Okay.
Sure. Just like I said, I think undiagnosed OCD and possible schizophrenia even, but then that schizophrenia is one where I'm like, do I believe it's a mental illness? Absolutely. But I also do think that these are people that are picking up on things that others can't.
Yes.
You know, and they can pick up on energy and frequencies. And then when you're like, if you look at native cultures, people in the villages that have schizophrenia, the people that they hear, the voices that they hear aren't bad. A lot of these times they aren't bad because people don't label them.
Sure.
Yes.
They don't label them, you know, and they accept them and see them as people that have these spiritual gifts.
Yes.
You know, so I think that makes a difference in our society.
Yeah. When you say that you could feel your grandpa, do you mean like his you knew like his presence like was around you, or like you literally could feel him touch you?
I could feel him. I could feel people touch me. Yes.
Oh,
and, so yeah, I was 12 years old. My grandma stayed in the apartment that he had committed suicide in.
Mm-hmm.
I was laying in the guest bedroom, which had the computer in it. My grandpa was always on the computer playing solitaire.
Okay.
And I woke up in the middle of the night one night and the computer was on and the solitaire game was up.
Oh, and you
then
did not pull it up.
I did not.
Yeah.
I like, it still gives me
I was gonna
goosebumps.
say I got goosebumps.
And I woke up and I saw a shadow walk from the room into the living room. And in the morning, I had woken up in the chair that was right against the wall where he had committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I felt like
Were
it was
you
a dream.
scared, or were you?
A little scared, I guess, but more just like I was very interested.
Yeah.
You know, I was very like, what is happening? And it's something I didn't really tell anybody about.
Okay.
You know, because it was just
different.
Yeah.
And our culture doesn't always accept all of that, right?
No. And
Yeah.
like when you know that stuff scares people,
Right.
you don't want to be like,
Well, people have been burned at stakes for
absolutely
for talking like this, right?
And so I just didn't say much until I got older and met some people that we'd share ghost stories, and then I'd be like, that's like a ghost story, I guess.
Sure.
Isn't
that funny how like I remember growing up calling it ghost stories too.
Right.
I'm gonna go hunt for spirits. I want to.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Like you say, Ghost in the Graveyard is one of those games,
but it's like a scary mindset.
Yes,
it is.
When it's so much more than that.
It is. Yeah. And then I spent a lot of my teenage years, I was very dissociative, and I had a lot of trauma from childhood. So that was part of that. But then in the States, I would feel and see people, or I'd be walking and I would see like a little girl, and that little girl would follow me, and it would just be, it was a very strange thing. And at the time, I just had no idea what was going on, and there was nobody I could share it with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about when you say I ask my mom this question all the time because she also sees and hears from spirit.
Yeah, dead people.
And,
I'm like,
yeah.
no.
And I don't want to always say dead people because it sometimes is just like spirit. Right?
Yeah. And that spirit is like, everybody has a different term. Like some people refer to spirit and they're talking about God, and other people say God and spirit. So it just depends on who you are and how you communicate.
Yeah. So how do you hear? Because my mom will be like, well, it's like in my head. But I'm like, is it a voice? Is it your voice? Is it someone else's? Like, do you hear it in your ear? Do you hear it in your brain? Like,
I've had times where I hear it in my ear.
Okay.
Those are the times where, again, somebody's really pushing me to communicate, and I have not wanted to communicate with them, or have not noticed how they're pushing me. So then they have to be really like forward about it.
Okay.
And I ask them actually when they do that to please stop. And you can ask spirit to stop and back off, and they will. But yes,
they always will.
Not always. Not if they're those lower vibration, and I don't like to call them evil or anything. They're just lower vibration that come in, like try to spook you or scare you, and they just have things to work through before they can really cross.
Yes.
And like I've learned, like, I don't have to be scared. Like, I just kind of have to tell them to fuck off.
Yeah.
Or say, hey, you can hang out somewhere else. You can't hang out here.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, what can we do to help you transition from, you know, where you are to get to a better, higher level over on that side. But yeah, I see things in my head.
Okay.
They talk. They'll show me songs.
Is
a lot
it
of
a
spirits.
Voice? Like your voice, their voice?
No, I can't. Yeah, that's another one where it's like, it's not my voice.
Okay.
But it's not like a completely different voice. It's almost like it's just another language.
Okay.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I can't even explain it. I've had all sorts of beings and nationalities, and spirits reach out to me where it's like, I don't even know how I'm connecting with you. Like when I say I've communicated with aliens, and like that's a weirder one that I'm still nervous to talk about because it's just so strange. But I started speaking light language. So when I would be in meditation, I would speak light language, which back in the day would be like speaking tongues.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
And sometimes I still do that. I don't do it all the time.
Codes?
I don't see them.
Okay.
I can feel them, if that makes sense. If I'm in meditation, I can see. If I'm not, I can just feel. Like I can feel things going down my spine. So I download a lot through my spine.
Okay.
Yep. And that's where they send everything.
How do you distinguish the difference between a thought and a message?
Sometimes I can't.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I can't. I will say things thinking that they are mine to say. And then I will say it to somebody and they'll be like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, oh, I guess that was a message from spirit just coming through my brain. But that's how people work. I think that we all serve a purpose and everything we do, even if some people are really nasty. I've been really nasty in my life and not saying that it's right or okay, but it serves a purpose.
Right.
And sometimes you have to come across those not so good things to go on your journey and heal those things and figure out how to navigate that. And it puts you in a different perspective. Like when places where I've been, I'm like, I can look at somebody and see that they've been, they're at where I've been. Yeah. And I have a better understanding and I can meet them with more compassion. And sometimes that's just what people need to become the better version of themselves is somebody to say, hey, I'm not going to criticize you for what you're doing. I'm just going to say, I understand it. And I know that it's coming from a lot of pain. Yeah. But, let's work through that or let's find a way to work through that.
You just have such a loving vibe to you. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you. It hasn't always been this way.
How do you feel like you've evolved from the 19-year-old who had a medium come to her house and say, you're a medium?
It was a really tricky time. So I guess, and looking back, I'm like, I just turned 20 actually when she had came. And I just started I dove right in, you know, I was like, I'm going to get into this. I bought cards. I started communicating with spirit. I started reading for people right away. Okay. But the thing is that I was an alcoholic. Okay. And so I would do these things while I was drunk a lot of the times with drunk people.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I can't say I haven't pulled cards drunk before.
Yeah. That's fun, right? Yeah. That's a fun party trick. Right. But I had actually started using it as a party trick sometimes. Okay. And there were times I'd be at somebody's house. We'd me and my friend would go to an after bar. Yeah. And I would be so uncomfortable that I would start reading for people because they'd all be doing drugs. Sure. And I was not I wasn't big into drugs. I was just really big into drinking. Sure. So I'd be uncomfortable. So I'd just start reading for people. And my friend was like, you need to stop. I was talking to this guy. I was like, I feel a little boy. I feel like he was shot and he's bawling his eyes out. Oh. And it's not funny, but it's funny. Okay. But my friend comes up to me and she's like, Emmitt, you need to stop. People are smoking crack. Oh, and sure. I was
and you're over here talking to spirits.
Yeah. And I'm like, but right place, right time. Right. And so I don't know what happened to this guy after I talked to him, but he ended up not smoking crack that night. And I think he did the next night, but that night he didn't. And so sometimes you just need to meet those people and go to those weird places and just give somebody something that they didn't ever think they would get, and just kind of hey, you're in this life and, maybe you blame yourself for what happened to that person, but that's a lesson for you. Yeah. And, if you're not going to get better, then in that case, if you're not going to get better, don't expect that you're going to be able to heal from this and don't, you might go in a similar way. It's kind of like a warning. Yeah. Sure. So I've had to do that for people.
How can I ask? You can say, no, Shane, I'm not answering that. How old are you now?
I'm 28.
So you've been doing this real
I guess I'm just realizing, for 8 years. Yeah, 8 years. So I was pretty into it. You had asked, how did I evolve? So I went from doing all of that, using it as a party trick. Yeah. using it to escape uncomfortable situations. But also trying to help everybody else. And for a long time, I was trying to heal and trying to help everyone else. And I was still so stuck in my own
help
grief.
Everyone else.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I
heal
was,
yourself.
Yeah. I was grieving. I had a lot of mental health issues that I was not looking at, and trying to help everybody else with theirs. And things kept coming up. So I'm going to get kind of deep into it. Yeah. I was sexually abused as a little girl. And I would come into these like situations where I'd have to like talk to people about that kind of stuff. And it was really triggering for me.
I bet.
And then when you tell somebody, hey, this might, this is a message that's coming through. This might have happened to your daughter or son.
Oh my gosh.
And then later finding out like, hey, you were right. That's not something you want to be right about.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of started happening a lot. And I stepped back and I got pregnant with my daughter. I got sober. I had my daughter, and postpartum was crazy. I had never been, so I was blown right open. I went from really focusing on myself and my pregnancy and putting all of my energy into my pregnancy and my baby in this life we were going to have. I still did not go to therapy at that point. But I was figuring out, who I'm going to be, what I'm going to be. You have all these expectations as a pregnant woman, your first pregnancy, your first child. And then I had her, and I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. I had no idea.
No parent knows what they're doing.
No, there is no I had no, it's all individualized.
Yeah, my postpartum hit, my grief hit, my trauma hit, and I was seeing and hearing dead people on another level. Yeah. When I talk about those lower vibration spirits, we were living in a apartment complex that was kind of old, and I felt a lot was coming through. I had a lady living below me that I believe was schizophrenic, but she was smoking in her apartment. And I was having dreams that she was going to fall asleep with a cigarette and burn the couch. And the apartment complex was going to start on fire. And I had that dream a few times.
Oh, no.
Eventually it worked. I shouldn't say it worked out, but she was taken to like a medical procedure.
Okay.
And I was just praying all the time. I was calling the apartment complex, the owners all the time, saying, hey, like, she's down there smoking, and I can't have that. I got a little girl up here that I don't want her breathing that in. Even though I had been a smoker, I had stopped smoking when I was pregnant. But you're a mom now. You're a real mom. And you're like, this is scary. So she ended up going to the hospital for something, and they didn't let her come back home, and she was put into, I believe, and I was praying for the best outcome. I'm not saying it was all me. I do believe spirit, is like, okay, I'm watching, right? Yeah. So she was put into a place where she was going to be taken care of, and, had somebody there with her to help her and everything. So that was, good. I don't even remember the question now.
No,
I like get so intrigued and involved in your stories that I don't remember.
I don't remember either. It doesn't matter. Keep talking.
But living in that apartment, I had when I say like shadow people, those lower vibrations, I was seeing shadow people in the hallway. My husband's father had passed away the same year that my boyfriend had passed away. And I was seeing him all the time and hearing him all the time, never having met him. Yeah. But I think he was just so there because we had just had this baby, and we were both really struggling in our parenthood. And I would like wake my husband up at like 3 a.m. I'd go in and be like, your dad says this. And like, I'd shut the lights off and like go back out to the living room.
What does your husband do?
I was wondering, like, how does your husband respond to all this?
Yeah. He's become more accepting over the years, and even we had broken up shortly before we had gotten pregnant. So we had broken up for a few months. We had been together since we were 20 years old. We were 25, 26 at this time. And I believe we both needed that break, but he actually went and started meditating, and I think kind of finding himself more. And when we broke up, his walls like just collapsed, and he became more emotionally open and everything, which was great for him. And for me, I was like, so like mad, that I was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I don't
know
care.
what it's like to be broken up with now my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I reminded him like 2 days ago, like, remember when I went to the Brewer game on my 30th birthday and you weren't there because you broke up with me?
Well, I'm like, isn't that fun?
Yeah.
It's so fun to do.
And he's like, I love you, honey.
Yeah, no, and that's how you know you found the good guy. Because he's like, okay, crazy.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I came back.
Yeah, exactly. But no, he really started being more open to it. He was never closed off from it, but he started becoming more open to it. He's also sober, and when we first started dating, we were both alcoholics. We always say we don't remember the first 3 months of our relationship.
Okay, yes.
Every time we had sex was the first time to
Yeah.
we'd be like, oh wait, it's not. That's how you know it's bad. But we had been together through a lot, and so he was really shut down, really not emotionally available to anybody or anything, which was great for me because I was grieving somebody that I considered to be at the time the love of my life. And so I just we were companions together in our grief for so long that we were never really fully present together, I feel. But he was open to it. At the time that Andrea came over, that's the name of the medium that came over. Okay. He was sleeping in my bedroom. Okay. And we had just started dating. We had been together for like 2 weeks. And she walks in and she's like, you have somebody here. And she goes, and whoever you have in the bedroom, he's got somebody here too. So right away, we're together for 2 weeks, and he comes out, he wakes up, and she's, talking to his father. Whoa. So we kind of have been like, looking back, I feel like that's the first time I'm really realizing it. Like, we've been on this like grieving journey together, where we both helped heal each other. And I think we took some things out on each other, but we found a way to work through them. Yeah. Right. And, he's always been accepting. Okay. And I don't think I could do it with somebody who wasn't.
Well, what do you say to people who don't believe in what you're doing and what you can do? Like,
I used to start reading for them. That's what I would do. You're
like, oh yeah, take this.
Yeah. And so I'd be like, I was a bartender, and I had a regular customer that found out through another regular customer that I channeled, and he is like, no, that's all fake. This is fake. That's fake. And I'm like, but don't you live in your grandmother's house? And didn't you move to town to take care of her? And that light that flickers in the hallway next to her bedroom. And he's like, stop.
Oh,
wow. You can do this for my nephews.
Oh my! He's like, that's enough. And it's those people that I can channel for the best.
Really?
Interesting.
Yeah. Like other people, like sometimes that really want it. I feel like I'm pulling at things. Yeah. But those people that are like, no, that's not real. And this, it's like Spirit's got something to say. And those people that are like, hey, what? I'm still over here. You don't believe I'm over here?
That's
They're
interesting.
like, I'm here. Yeah. And I think they really need those messages to be like, yeah.
So it's interesting to hear that, because I, of course, obviously fully believe in all of this. But when I first came to see you, I was not prepared, because you say it's a tarot card reading. I literally thought I was going in for a tarot card reading. Yeah. And I walk in and
it's a little deceiving.
All of a sudden, like, she had to tell my grandma to go away because Becky was so there and needed to come and give me messages, and I was like blown away.
For those of our listeners who don't know who Becky is Brielle, Shannon's daughter's birth mother, who has passed in episode 14, Complicated Losses. We talk a little bit more about that if you want more info on that, but that's who Becky is. So
it was just like, I wasn't prepared for that at all, and she just came in full force. And
there are those that are just, they're ready, and when they see you, they're like, hey, that's the person, right? And they'll stick with me. Spirit will stick with me for a few days before I meet somebody, and I won't know who they belong to. Or
that happened during my reading. You were like hearing all these Beatles songs.
Oh my God. And I was hearing those. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And what was weird too was when we were in Oregon, everywhere we went, I heard Blackbird by the Beatles. And
you told me to be listening for that one.
Yeah. And so everywhere I went, I was hearing it, and it was just so strange. And I thought about both of you every time I heard it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any more insight as to what that might be?
I don't. I think that's a song because I looked it up. I can't remember. It was somebody, the both of you had somebody coming through. Becky was one of them that was showing me those Beatles songs.
Yes.
And I can't remember if I gave you a name or not.
No, it's just Beatles.
Yeah. But I feel like Blackbird must have been it. And then for you, Hey Jude, and then finding out, that's the name of your son. Hey.
Yeah.
And that song had been playing everywhere before I met you.
Yeah.
And it was not a song that I heard on the regular, like in the places that I was. So I was like, that's kind of strange. And then I was like, this is for you.
Yeah.
Hey,
now we can connect the dot.
But I believe Blackbird is a song about grief. I'm not completely sure on that, but I do hear that people use it at funerals.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Like a celebration of somebody's life.
Sure.
And yeah.
So are there just like spirits just walking around and you see them everywhere you go, or can you turn this off? Like,
I can turn it off.
You can,
and I have to turn it off.
Yeah, I imagine if there's just, how would you know what's real and what's not at some point if you couldn't turn it off?
Absolutely. And I had gotten to those points, where it was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know who this is for. It's like, I want to stand in the room and just shout, I'm seeing one that follows me around every time I'm out.
Yep.
But at the restaurant I work at I see a stained glass hanging in somebody's window of a sailboat. And I believe it's for a customer, but I don't want to go to this customer and be like, hey, do you know what that means?
I'll go to the customer.
Yeah,
You just let me know.
What is that? And then there was another time that there was an event happening at the restaurant I work at, and I was hearing the name Donna. Kept hearing it, and it was an event for mental health and people, and I didn't know what it was for, but I think people with mental health issues and people that have lost people to suicide, and somebody came up to commemorate Donna, and I was like, maybe I should have gone over there, but it's hard to do that because I've been that person that goes to somebody that was not ready to hear a message.
Sure.
And that's a hard spot to put somebody in.
Right.
Yeah. And there are people that just do it. Like if you watch Long Island Medium, she'll just go up and be like, hey.
Yes.
And I know a lot of other mediums that do that. I just don't feel fully comfortable.
Yeah.
You had said that you used to, like the non-believers, just start reading them.
I would.
Do you not do that anymore?
I try not to.
Okay.
Because
I imagine it's hard though, because you have somebody.
and so much of it was ego.
Before you leave, can you please go downstairs and talk to my dad?
I'll try. We'll see if I can turn it on.
Yeah. So how do you turn it off?
Yeah.
I just go into the day like we're shutting down.
Okay.
I tell them, hey, I just need, some space. But I do know on the days, like it's been a little while now since I've read.
Yeah.
That I struggle to get back into it.
Okay.
But
is it like the practice, like anything?
It is.
Like,
the more you connect to it, the better you get.
Yeah.
And then the times that I turn it off, and there's been times where I turned it off for months.
Okay.
And actually after those times, something will happen where Spirit's like, okay, time to get back up and like time to get back to work. And then I'm like, okay. And it takes me like a few days and then I'm like right back in it.
Sure. Have you ever had a reading where you're just like, nothing's happening. I don't know what to do.
And I'll tell people like, I'm not picking up on this, but I have friends, that are mediums, and I've had people that want me to read for them that I don't feel comfortable reading. I'm like, I will send you to my friend who reads because I think that's going to be better for you.
Okay.
So
I love that because that means this. To me, like that is another sign that this is real and that you're not just doing this and being some fake person to get money, right? Like
no, and that's like something I never want, because that I have imposter syndrome, right? I think everybody kind of does to a level, but that it's hard, to be like, I do this crazy weird thing. I use the word crazy a lot, sorry.
That's okay.
But I do this weird thing that how do you explain to people? And so many people are like, that's not real, that's fake, whatever. And I've just had to learn to be like, with those people, like, I don't need to prove myself to you.
Yeah.
And then
And you're right. Like, you don't need to prove.
No, but
anything.
It took me a long time. Like, when you ask, like, do I not read for those people that don't believe anymore? I don't. I try not to, because that's my ego, right? So I'm playing into my ego when I want to be like, ha ha ha, like, take that. And I don't need to do that. Like, if you're not ready for the message, or if you don't believe, like, that's fine. Like, there's nothing I can do. It's not my job to convince you. And if you're not into it, you're not into it. My mom is like, she is and she isn't, you know, she can do a lot of it herself, but she is not open to that part of herself. And, well, she might be, she's just private about that kind of stuff. Right. So, but I know she can communicate with her mom, who she had a really complicated relationship with throughout her whole life, even in my grandma's passing. But after my grandma's passed, I think that they've been able to heal, you know, through that together. And she, like, my grandma will come visit by knocking some chimes in the basement, or you know, just doing sending little weird things, like a butterfly on a cold day, or you know, things like that, where it's like, that's weird, you know, and that's how you know it's them. So I just accept that it's not for everybody, where I used to really try to push my mom into this, and she'd be like, Emmitt, like, that's not for everyone. Not everybody wants that. Not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants somebody to come into their house and be like, this and this and that's wrong with you. And, like, you know, my mom's also a really self-aware person. So I think it goes, like, if you're already really self-aware, it could be hard to hear that from somebody else, right? And then if you're not a self-aware person, it's same thing. Right, it's hard to hear, right? Like, you don't want to face it. So I just accept that if somebody's open to it and they want to come to me, like, let's connect, but I'm not going to push.
Yeah. And you had said something about, like, it's hard to understand. And I know somebody who has lost people, and his neurology just doesn't understand this. And it's not black and white for him, where that's where his neurology sits. And it's really hard to understand. And he's really stuck right now because, well, who do you have that's passed away? Or do you know somebody? And where's your grandma? And are they in heaven? And what is heaven? And where did they go? And how did they get there? Right? Like, it's
and I think we've so overcomplicated.
Yes.
We have. And
it's really just as simple as, like, you have this form body that you live inside.
I always say energy can't be destroyed, right?
Yes.
So that's a scientific thing.
Yes.
You know, it goes somewhere.
Yeah. So episode 34, you said that.
Oh, okay,
I literally just listened to that back in preparation for this episode, Emmitt, because we talked a lot about death and dying, and, like, what our personal beliefs were. And I can ask you, like, is there a heaven? Is there a hell? And you're saying, like, this, we're making this too complicated.
You know, I'm really into Long Island Medium. I am. I'm reading one of her books right now called Good Morning, and it's about everyday losses and how to grieve your everyday losses to help you grieve your deaths that you've been through. It's kind of cool, but she, I think, talks a lot about heaven, and, like, they're in heaven, or they're here and they're with God. And like I said, that means something different to everybody else. I don't know what her idea of heaven is. I do believe that there's levels, the way I see it, and the way that I've read it, and what feels and sits right with me is that there's levels, right? Okay. So I don't believe in hell. I believe that
we
you will.
Both said we didn't.
I believe if you have lessons you have to learn, that you will have to relive them through the eyes of people that are going through the things that you've done that were hurtful to people. Like, if you are a really bad person, like, maybe you're going to be a little boy, reincarnated as somebody that, you know, you did those things too, and now you've had to go through them. And that's a complicated thing too, right? Right. Because you say that, and then it's like, oh, well, I chose this path then, or, you know, because they say you have a soul contract. Yes. Oh, so you sign up for the things that you go through in life. And what that does, though, what I've noticed for myself when I just stuck to that belief, and that was the belief, is, I put myself through my trauma. And that's not right either to do to people. Right. So it's, yes, I signed up maybe for this, but that does not make the people that did those things to me not accountable for their actions. Right. I'm not accountable for that, because for a long time on the spiritual journey, I was taking accountability for everything that I went through, really bad things. Yeah. And so that weighed on me, and I didn't realize how much weight I was putting on myself. Like, maybe I lived my hell, you know, as a young girl.
Right.
But that doesn't make it my fault.
The end. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So do we live our hells? I think so.
Yeah.
Do we have to revisit them after death? I think so. But it's just, things aren't so black and white. It's all weird. And I think
it is.
I think until we're back over there, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
Yeah.
I think anybody that pretends to know, I think they're making it up a little bit. I'm sorry. Like,
no, I
totally
agree with you. No one can actually know anything.
I watch these spiritual gurus who are like, this is what happens and this is why. And I'm like, that's such a way to, you know, fine on the spirit side of the world. But I think one thing is that spiritual people don't connect with humanity sometimes. They view themselves as being above it. And I did that. For a long time because I was spiritually bypassing all of my trauma. And I was like, nope, doesn't matter because I know that it doesn't matter because I know that when I evolve and I die and whatever, that I'm just going to be part of the cosmos and all this and all that fun stuff to talk about, right? But I'm not there yet.
Right.
I'm a human.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have to sit in my humanity.
Yeah. It is weird to like mash those two, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And it still is taking, you know, it's an art.
Yeah.
And it's one that's really messy.
Do you ever study Eckhart Tolle? I talk about him all the time.
I don't.
Okay.
But I know
he's
a lot
one
of
of
people.
those that is very like, well, like nothing matters because
like,
nothing's real. And I'm like,
I read
something, but I'm
Yeah.
still a human. Like I gotta
I read
figure
something the other day that said trauma doesn't exist. And I'm like, what a foolish thing to say.
Right.
Like, what a crazy thing to say.
Yes.
I used to be somebody that I could say that. Like, oh, I forgive my abuser. I understand because he went through that. I know my abuser's backstory. You know, so I'm a very compassionate person, and that worked against me for a very long time because I'm like, he did that because he went through that, right? So I was making an excuse.
Sure.
And then being like, oh, trauma's not real and it's what we do with it. And if I just say I forgive, then I forgive. But then I went to therapy and I found out I don't have to forgive anybody. I don't have to. And that was so freeing. And in the spiritual world, you hear that forgiveness is the key, right? Forgiving people and forgiving yourself is always the key. I think forgiving yourself can be the key. It's part of it, you know? It doesn't unlock all the doors, but it can be a key. But
you don't have to forgive other people.
You don't have to always forgive other people. You know, I can understand, but I don't have to forgive you for it.
Yeah, I like that.
I really like how you talked about the levels. That's how I feel like I see it too. Recently, my husband and I were having a conversation. I'm like, when I die, don't you ever say to Jude, I went to heaven because I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
and
still with you.
And you're everywhere.
Yes.
Like, it's so true. Like, I can see, like, my boyfriend that passed away. When he first passed away, I truly do feel like I was pulling him down. I feel like I was pulling him to be here with me because I couldn't move through my grief. I couldn't move through my losing him. And it was so crazy. I don't even know, like, when I tell people like that I loved him, it was like that Romeo and Juliet, the Leonardo DiCaprio version. I loved him hard like that. And it was not always like, looking back as a grown adult, you know, who's worked through stuff, it's like, it's a little toxic, right? Like, we consumed each other and we found each other, and he was the first person that I felt I truly connected to, and I truly felt like he was a part of me. And I do believe that we've lived lives together. And we would talk, and we'd have like very similar dreams on the same nights, and dreams about like places and being different people, and but still knowing that we were each other. You know, we were the same person, but we were with each other. It was very strange, and I had never encountered anything like that. And I was also very young, and I haven't encountered anything like that really since. So he passed, and I was just heartbroken, and I was heartbroken for a long, long time. I had a journal, like how I wrote my grandpa letters. I wrote hymn letters, and I decided when I was pregnant that I was going to get rid of them. So I got rid of all of them because it was hard and I cried a lot, but I would read the journals and I would sit there and bawl. Yeah. Pretty much any day I could just pull it out and I would just cry because it was like losing him all over again.
Yeah.
So I had to let him go, you know, and he has been coming through for a long time, going to other mediums, and those mediums would be like, Emmitt, you need to let him go.
Oh my gosh.
Like, because
he was like stuck.
He was stuck, and because I was stuck.
Right.
Because I couldn't get over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not to say I'm even over it now. Sure, like, that's such a weird thing to be like, I'm over it. No, I'm not.
No.
Like, it's something that will live with me forever. And he is somebody that will live with me forever and that I will always remember. Just as like, not as like the greatest love of my life and all of that I felt at that time. It's changed. Our relationship has changed since he's passed, which is crazy. Somebody's passed and our relationship has just totally evolved. But he will always be the person that validated me, validated my emotions, and loved me for every weird little thing that I was at the time. And that's so special. But what's even more special is that, you know, he passed and he opened me up to what I do now.
Yeah. Yes.
By staying with me and showing me that there's more to me. Yeah. There's more to me than my trauma.
Gifts.
Yeah. And I can do things and I don't have to be stuck. And his sister said something to me when he passed. She said, I believe that he passed because God has a greater plan for you.
Yeah.
It always makes me want to cry. Yeah. Because that hurt to hear at the time.
Yeah.
Because you lost him and you didn't want to lose him so that you could have
his sister she loves him. Like, she really, people love their siblings, right? But she really loved her brother. And for her to be able to say that to me at the time was just so like, how hard would that be to say to somebody?
Yeah.
But I think our connection was just so great, and that even through his death, he's just showed me so much.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, and he showed me how to forgive, you know, not so great parts of myself and even not so great parts of him, and give me a greater understanding of how people turn out to be who we were at the time. And then being shown that I can change. Yeah. You know?
Going back to episode 34, and that's something that Jess had said was she really wants to get to a point in her life where if somebody does pass away that she doesn't feel sad, knowing that like they're here with us still.
But you're gonna be sad.
Right. Yeah. We talked about like how would you ever do
I don't
that?
know, but it seems like something to think about.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, you're gonna be sad. Yeah. But that's part of like what I said, the humanness. Yes. So the spiritual side is they're over there, they're still here, it's great. And you know, like we can feel that. Yeah. But part of the humanness is grieving.
The humanness.
The humanness. It's grieving, it's being sad, and it's learning how to get through it and not to let it stop you from living your life. Because that's the part I think people aren't looking forward to, right? Is, you know, everything's going to stop, you know, nothing's ever going to be the same. And it's learning how to carry on and still be happy. Yeah. You know, knowing that they're still part of you. Right? Yeah. But that's hard.
It is hard. It's something that you're striving for still?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I get the sentiment.
Yeah.
There was something that I was going to ask you and I totally... so what do you think about the people that like for whatever, couple minutes or whatever pass away, but then they come back? Like they will say, like, I saw this light and I...
have you guys watched Surviving Death on Netflix?
Yes.
No, that...
So good.
That will freak me out and make me feel like I'm going to survive a death or something. I'll have anxiety
it's
about it.
So much more than that. The first episode is about people that have died and came back. There's another episode about kids that like can remember their past lives.
Do you do past life work?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't in a while, but I can. That was one thing. So before I got pregnant with Opal, me and my husband had been pregnant before, and I had lost the pregnancy. But during that pregnancy, I went to Andrea, who was like, I consider her my mentor. I love her so much. I went to Andrea and she did a guided meditation with me. Mm-hmm. And my husband, he laid there with me and he was going to do the meditation too, but he said he was so focused on everything that I was saying that he could not get into it. Mm-hmm. And I went through like 4 or 5 past lives, where it was just because I was having a hard time thinking about being a mother. It was something I always wanted, but now that it was going to happen, I was so like scared. Mm-hmm. And I saw things that are unsettling. It was just very strange. And then I woke up just like, what the fuck? Right? Yeah. What the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And I had done past life things before. Mm-hmm. And I know like the first one that's always stuck with me was I was like a witch in Scotland in the 1500s, and I knew nothing about Scotland in the 1500s, but then I like was burned at the stake, and
I was burned at a stake in past life too.
And I was a milkmaid for this family, and I like my kids were taken away, but I like had to like feed and nurse their kids, and then I was like in the basement doing stuff. And then I like looked it up, and in Scotland in the 1500s, like in Salem, they didn't actually ever burn somebody at the stake. That's like a misconception. But in Scotland, that is where they burned witches at the stake, and it started, I believe, in the 1500s. And so I was like, that's weird. I looked it up afterwards. I was like, how strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, to think we used to just go around burning people at stakes, right? But yeah. Yeah, so you know your past lives too?
That was one that came up in a reading before. There have been a few readings that I've had with past lives. But
those are fun ones. I like those ones.
Do you do them too?
I have.
Okay.
I'm not as, like, I would love to do more of it.
Okay.
It's just like the practicing, right?
Yeah.
And practicing that with people. And there have been people that I like can't stop talking about it. And I'm like, this is really, you're like... It's really big for you. And, but yeah, other times it doesn't come through all the time.
So you said that you do in-person readings and then over email, correct?
Yeah, I do them over email.
How can people find you if they want to have a reading?
So right now, my personal Facebook page, I don't have an LLC yet, but I'm going to be doing that this year because I have to.
Yeah.
But I can't come up with a name.
Okay.
My original name for my page was Stay at Home Medium because I just stayed at home and I was just not working at the restaurant. Mm-hmm. So I was at home doing virtual readings and emailed readings. And now it's changed and I'm changing again. And I want something that's going to stick with me. So I'm constantly looking like, come on, like give me a name. Like Spirit, give me a name. So hopefully I'll have something up and running soon.
Okay.
Yeah. But for right now, I am on Facebook as Stay at Home Medium.
Okay.
And then I also have my personal Facebook page at Emmitt Jane Sanders. That I don't have my messages up so anybody can message me because I'm paranoid.
That's fair.
But, I'm like, my daughter's sticker is on my foot.
Mom life.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, for now, if you want to send me a Facebook group friend request and set up a time.
It's okay to friend request.
Yeah, it's okay to friend request me as long as you're not a weirdo.
Sure.
You can be a weirdo.
We're all weirdos.
You can be a weirdo. You just can't be a creep.
Oh, yeah. That's a difference.
Yeah.
Creep versus weirdo.
Yes.
Definitely a difference. I like that.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Do you have an email that people should reach out to?
I do. Yep. It's Emmitt Jane Sanders. Or no, that's not my email.
That's your Facebook.
That's okay. That's your Facebook.
Emmitt Jane 95@gmail.com.
Okay.
Can you spell out Emmitt?
Yep. EMMITT. And then it's JANE 95. Yep.
Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
I know you have
Thanks
a really
for me.
great story about the quote you're going to share.
Yeah. So I had mentioned my grandpa committed suicide when I was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. And that night we went to the apartment. I don't know why we went to the apartment that night, but the aftermath crew was still there. They were cleaning his blood off the walls.
Oh my gosh.
And my family was in the bedroom just getting rid of some things. And I went into a closet and I found a binder, and the binder said, "May the lamp that leads you to what you seek find oil enough."
Thank you for listening and being a part of our community. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
If you'd like to connect, we can be reached at podcastfromtheretohere at gmail. We hope you continue on this journey with us.